Hello, everyone. My name is Len Tetta. I am the Collage Fellow for the 23-24 season. I have the great pleasure today of speaking with Mark DeVoto, whose piece New England Verses is going to be premiered by Collage New Music on their April 21st concert at Killian Hall. Mark, how are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
It's so great to be able to talk to you about this piece. I figured to start out, if you could just tell me about the genesis of it, how you came up with the idea, how you chose the texts, or what connection you see them having to each other. I know the poets are all connected via geography, but as texts themselves.
I had written some Emily Dickinson songs a few years before, and back in the 1980s, I'd written some songs in German while I was in Vienna. After my 75th birthday concert in 2015, when the Dickinson songs were performed, I thought that it would be likely that my next performance, if there were going to be one, would most likely be something practical, such as songs. And then, of course, I thought immediately of Collage, which regularly does performances with a small ensemble like the Pierrot Ensemble, and so that's how that started.
Cool. So in terms of the texts themselves and the music and how they all connect, do you see like a particular connection between these four poems? Like is this piece like about anything in as much as a piece can like be about something? I know we as composers have, a lot of thoughts about that issue, but in this case.
Well, they're all New Englandy, and as I think I said in my notes for the program, that they're all sort of autumnal. Uh, some may think of them as as except maybe for the last one, somewhat somewhat gray, tending towards wintertime. But I guess I started with the one by Trumbull Stickney, the one called Mnemosyne, uh, which is just not a known text, but I like the sound of it, so I started with that one. And then uh, I've always liked Emily Dickinson's poetry, and Edwin Arlington Robinson, who at the time was sort of considered a forerunner to Robert Frost. And I had a Frost connection because my father was very close to him, and I even met Robert Frost once, but I couldn't think of the proper Frost text to that I might have chosen. And besides, all of Frost's texts are still copyright protected, as Robinson's are not. So
Yeah, there
I
you go.
went from them.
That makes sense. Apart from your compositions, you've done a lot of I know there's a complicated relationship with the term theory, but like theoretical work, you've done a lot of very fine analytical stuff with Alban Berg, and I'm very curious how systematic this music is and like the music itself and also like the relationship to the texts, because I read somewhere that like the second Viennese school composers, they were very like, they always insisted like we don't analyze the poems, we just feel it out. It's the like we just write them based on intuition of how the text sounds to us. And I wonder, especially since you're so familiar with that music, what in terms of the sort of nitty-gritty compositional process of setting these texts, like how mechanical is it, I guess, is the what I'm wondering.
Oh, it's hard to say. I'm certainly not a 12-tone composer in these pieces, at least. Uh, um, there are a few places where there are chords that are, I think, very close to things that you'll find in some of Alban Berg. Uh, just as in my German songs from back in the 1980s, there was always a D minor background in the midst of an extremely chromatic context. Uh, uh, but No, there's nothing systematic in these that I can particularly think of. I looked above all for a melodic line within the voice and within the accompaniment, usually in a fairly spare texture. These songs are thinner than some of my other songs.
Sure. So then I guess to finish up, you've had a long running relationship with Collage. I've enjoyed reading your your Boston Musical Intelligencer reviews of their concerts. And I'm curious like how you approach writing specifically for them, especially since this is the only vocal piece on this concert, which is very nice because it makes the piece, easier to remember when people are like, "Oh, that was the one that had a singer on it." Not that that was the motivation, but it is a happy byproduct. I'm just wondering if you could speak to like the experience of writing specifically for this group.
Well, of course, I've known Collage for a very long time. I was present at the premiere of Donald Sear's Satori on Park Avenue, uh, and well, it's easy to relate to Donald Sir and Collage together, uh, because I knew Donald first from Princeton as far back as 1961, and of course um, when he lived in Cambridge, he wrote regularly for Collage, uh, and that was even before I came to Tufts. I had been at the University of New Hampshire until 1981. Even in those days, though, Donald used to do Ozolid printing for practically all of the composers in the Boston area out of his apartment. And so I was present also at the premiere of Donald's Unicorn and the Lady. So there's that connection too.
Sure. Yeah, and Donald Sohr's Satori on Park Avenue is another piece on this program for all of you
Yes.
watching if you're interested in hearing that as well. All right, well, I think that's about all the time we have, unfortunately. But thank you so much for talking to me about this, Mark. This was great. I'm very, very excited to hear your piece. And all of you out there should be excited too if you come to Killian Hall on April 21st at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. if you want to hear the pre-concert talk. You will hear it, as well as a piece by me, as well as a piece by Donald Suhr and several other wonderful composers. Thank you all so much for watching.